Welcome to Stargate SG-1 for the first time, still not a Star Trek podcast. My name is Jeff Akin, and I'm watching Stargate SG-1 for the first time.
And I'm Brent Allen, and I'm watching Stargate SG-1 for the 47th time. But for the first time, I am looking for what Stargate is trying to teach us through its show. You know, those lessons that sci-fi does so well, where they hold up a mirror to society, give us hope that things can be better in the future, or maybe even just teach us how to be better human beings to one another.
Let's get right into this episode. There, but for the grace of God. If I remember right, I think this is going to be a Daniel-focused episode where he's going to travel some space-time continuum. This is going to be the It's a Wonderful Life version for Stargate, right?
That's what you said, yeah.
If you and had you, Daniel, done this sort of a thing. So we're going to find out what it's about. But before we watch, Brent, why don't you tell us about this episode?
Well, Jeff, this is the 20th episode of Season 1, There But For the Grace of God. Original air date, February 20th, 1998. This is continuing on with no breaks since they came back from their season break after Halloween the year prior. Jeff, this is one of those episodes that I say all sci-fi shows do at some point or another. You'll see what I mean. It should come as no surprise to you then that I tell you that this episode was written by a guy named David Kemper. Now, surprise may not be the word. Apathy may be the correct word, because you're like, who the heck is David Kemper? Well, David Kemper does write 2 episodes. This is the first of 2 episodes for SG-1 he's going to write. But his sci-fi street cred, Jeff, it's pretty established.
Yeah.
He has served as writer on other genre shows like The Outer Limits, Sequest, Farscape. He served as a producer for both Sequest and Farscape.
Wow.
But where we are going to note him as the writer of 3 episodes of Star Trek. One of them from Voyager, Season 1, Time and Again. Maybe not really the best episode, but hey, it's really hard to write those early season episodes. It wasn't awful.
Just an episode.
But he also wrote from Seasons 2 and 3 of Next Generation. He wrote Peak Performance, which that's the one where he got the great line from Picard where he says it's possible to commit no mistakes and still lose. And that's not weakness, that's life, Mr. Data.
And you got Stratagema guy going against Data, right?
Yes, that guy. And then he also wrote the Season 3 episode, The Enemy. That's the one where Geordi is trapped with a Romulan down on planet Hell, as they said.
Oh, yeah.
So he wrote those 3 episodes, actually, I guess, of Star Trek. And he's got several other credits to his name.
Wow.
Now, in this episode, though, Jeff, we are going to establish a new fact about gate travel, or gate technology, as it were. It is going to become canon in this episode. We're going to hang on to this for a very long time. So be on the lookout for that. I'm not going to tell you what it is. You'll catch it. It'll be something new that we've never heard before.
Okay.
In the in-universe timeline, this episode is taking place almost exactly 1 year from Children of the Gods.
Okay.
All right, which is almost 2 years from the events of the film, just so you know. So we're there. Jeff, winding up close here to the end of the season, you had a theory way back at the end of Children of the Gods as to how the season was going to play out. Remind us real quick what that was.
At the end of Children of the Gods, Daniel's really specific when he's like, I'm going to be back in 1 year from today to come and get Shara and Skara. After that, you rubble this Stargate and shut her down. Here we are, like you said, 1 year later. It's a season later. That's where I think the season is going to end, with him going back to Abydos and trying to get Shara and Skara.
With that, Jeff, why don't we go ahead and jump into this episode, There But For the Grace of God. If you're joining us for the first time out there, first of all, welcome. And the way this works is Jeff and I are going to watch this episode together right now, immediately. And if you're watching us on YouTube, you're going to see the reaction video to Jeff and I watching this episode. If you'd like to see the full unedited reaction, head over to patreon.com/Babylon5 first, because we are unifying all of our stuff under that one banner over there. And you can catch the full unedited version over there.
And if you're listening to this on a podcasting app, the audio version, we're going to skip the entire episode. We're going to join you on the other side. And that's when I'm going to share my for the first time reaction. And Brent's going to share any of those sci-fi type messages that he may or may not have gotten out of this one. So Brent, let's do it.
Let's go.
Chevron 7 locked.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the least military of them all? If you guessed Daniel Jackson, you'd be right. While the team is doing their thing, Daniel finds this cool mirror, and while gazing lovingly at himself, he doesn't notice that the team isn't around anymore. Oops. So he dials himself home, but once he gets there, nobody knows who he is. It's as if he came to an open field, with a wood on the other side of it that looked much darker than the last wood, and Daniel felt a little timid about going into it. However, on second thought, he made up his mind to go on. Everything here is wrong. The signage says SGA instead of SGC. Sam has long hair and isn't even in the Air Force. Colonel Hammond arrests him, and Catherine Langford is running the show? You remember Catherine, right? Tormented Tantalus and I guess the movie too. Oh, and O'Neill? Through this looking glass, Jack O'Neill is a general and is in charge of the entire operation. So, seriously, what's going on here? Well, it seems the worst is kind of happening here. Over 1 billion people are dead, and all the big cities are blowed up. Looks like the Reapers have attacked, and even though Shepard has been warning them for years, they weren't prepared. Sorry, wrong franchise. Let's try this again. Looks like the Goa'uld have attacked, and Earth is totally unprepared. Even though Dr. Carter, is a civilian here, she's still brilliant. Also, totally engaged to Jack O'Neill? Huh. Well, she figures out the mirror that Daniel found was a quantum mirror, and it sent him here to an alternate universe. She, along with Catherine and Daniel, figure out the chevron number for the source of the Goa'uld attack, and O'Neill decides to send a bomb through and blow those guys away. Time is of the essence, though, because Tilk and his crew of Jaffa are attacking right now. That's right, Tilk's not part of the SGA, he's still with Apophis. Now Daniel says to the crew there, hey, you know that bombing plan you've got? Yeah, that sure sounds great. You know what would be better, though? Sending me back so I can go back to my universe and, I don't know, maybe save my Earth. Now you might be asking yourself here the same thing that I asked myself. Won't that mean the SGA will be overrun by Jaffa and the whole Earth will get destroyed? And yeah, you'd be right. Just like me. That's exactly what's going to happen. But despite that, they all agree that sending Daniel home is the right thing to do. One by one, everybody gets killed, and Daniel escapes through the Stargate, surviving a blast from Tilk's staff weapon right as he goes through. He hits the quantum mirror, and he's home. He wakes up on the way to the infirmary and sees the SGC crew around him. You were there. And you were there too, he says. And the episode ends with an ominous warning. They are coming.
All right, Jeff, so that was There But For the Grace of God. Go I or them. What'd you think?
Quick question on this one. Is this a beloved episode in the community?
I don't think I've ever heard anybody actually discuss this episode ever.
That makes sense to me because literally nothing happened. They're on this planet PR-3233 or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel touches a mirror, poof, goes off, has this big wild adventure in an alternate reality where everybody died. And what I loved about the alternate reality, Tilk wasn't moved. He was blown. He was shocked. How do you know these things?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you know these things this way? Cool. Boom, you're dead. Total badass Jaffa. I liked that. But then he comes back, and he's back. They're coming, he says. That's how it ends, right? They're coming.
Yep.
We know. I feel like I have known that since episode 2, and now we know.
But now they're coming. They're on the doorstep.
Yeah, now it's not just coming. But are they? So here, I feel like this episode didn't know if it wanted to be alternate reality mirror universe or if it wanted to be time travel, alternate time sort of a thing. Because his whole thing, right? So he finally convinces them that this alternate reality thing is real and, he's a legitimate person with a different background. And then he says, hey, you can't go fight the Goa'uld. You have to point me to this other planet that I was on before, so you can save my Earth, his Earth, not their Earth. He basically is asking them, like, already, what is it Jack said? 1.5 billion dead.
Yeah.
Already. And they've just hit Europe, and they're hitting the East Coast and heading west. 1.5 billion dead. And he's like, hey, let the rest die so I can save my Earth. And then Jack's like, okay, I'll do that. Really?
Well, sort of. I 100% know exactly where you are because I was there the first several times I watched this episode. Having seen it, can I correct a few things for you on that?
Yeah.
Because you're right. A first-time watcher looking through these eyes, that's exactly what you think, because it's what I thought too. But the idea here, okay, do you remember the Voyager episode where the ship got split and there were two different Voyagers? Harry Kim had to go back and forth, and ultimately one of the two Voyagers had to be destroyed in order to save the other. And basically you're like, hey, we're already jacked up. We're done. This isn't going to work. So let us go, and you guys can at least flourish and get home. That's kind of what happened here. Was this alternate Earth that Daniel was on. The Goa'uld were already there. The Goa'uld were already wiping everybody out. They weren't going to win that one. They weren't going to come back. The best they could have done is either let some of their people escape if they can get the outgoing wormhole there. But even then, people will still find where they are eventually and take them out.
Mm-hmm.
Or they can send a bomb back to their land home and do a little bit of damage to them, maybe even a lot of damage, but you're not going to stop the invasion. By sending Daniel back, he could at least have the opportunity to stop the invasion. That is for the leap in logic of, oh, they're already here. They're coming. So that must mean that they're knocking on the door at home as well. I've never understood that leap in logic. He has this one line where he's like, oh, I'd say we pissed them off pretty well too, if not more.
Yeah.
Like it's like, that's like the one line that kind of makes you go, oh, they're coming. Okay. But, basically Daniel goes back with saying, hey, it's not just they're coming eventually. This is they're coming right now, and they're really close. And if we don't do something, we're going to go we're going to be in the same situation that universe over there is in, or that Earth is in. So that's what the show is intending to say. Admittedly, it didn't do a good job.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Before we gate into the rest of this episode, did you know you're missing most of the content from this podcast? Stargate SG-1 for the first time has an active and exciting Patreon that you can join right now by clicking the link in the show notes. Not only will you get access to the full, unedited podcast and reaction videos, you'll also be able to join a growing, vibrant, maybe even an intergalactic community. Subscribers even get access to all of our content from Babylon 5 for the first time. Don't miss out on this content and the amazing people. Just click the link in the show notes. Tilk thinks you should do it right now.
Indeed.
At all, because I think I still don't buy it, right? I mean, the show's going to tell me what it's going to tell me, and it's going to take us on a path, but watching this, like I said, especially for the first time, you don't know anything. Here's what I saw. What I saw was the Goa'uld, led by the Jaffa, kicking butt. I mean, no prisoners, just melting through everybody, because we had top-knot Tilk at the front, just nailing it and being awesome. Guess what? Top-knot Tilk is just cool guy Tilk in our reality. How far back did that set all of the Goa'uld plans for things? What about the fact that they've been to Chulak and they've done other things to the Goa'uld? They got Hathor, who went off, like
Daniel destroyed that whole vat of baby Goa'uld.
Exactly. Like they've made a real impact on the Goa'uld in the reality we've seen. It's a leap in logic that doesn't make sense to say, oh, they're coming, they're right here.
What it felt to me like, honestly, is they tried to go with the alternate universe timeline idea that every star whatever show does at some point, right? But even the writers themselves didn't fully comprehend exactly how it works. Like they had all the words. It just, the leap in logic, it requires you to kind of see what they're thinking and just sort of go with it, because you know what? We're moving on next week.
Here you go. Just next.
This episode, I don't mind telling you, it really sets up this arc here at the end of the season for everything that's happening now.
Because they're coming. They're here. And so here we go.
They are knocking on and that's exactly where we are. Like, we're here. Daniel has this big sense of urgency. He's discovered this thing, and he's brought back this little bit of information that they can use. Supposedly, this is going to be the planet that the attack originates from. Only that was in their universe, not ours. So
there's no reason to believe that any of it's going to happen, other than it's probably going to happen.
But that's how these all these alternate realities work, is things are different just enough, but everything that needs to be the same for the sake of the plot is still the same. And there's no rhyme or reason as to what's different versus what's changed versus what's the same.
It's so true. I remember, we had the singular mirror episode in the original series, right? Mirror, Mirror. That was great. And then we didn't see it again, hear about it again, or anything until Deep Space Nine.
Like season 3 or something. Season 3, season 4. Like, it was kind of deep.
And it was kind of cool how they brought it in, how, hey, by convincing Spock of things, you actually weakened all the neat little story.
Mm-hmm.
But weird how it's a total different timeline, yet all the same players are in the same place on the same ships. Don't think about it. I will say this. I didn't notice this until like a couple of watches ago. The SGC in this alternate universe is the SGA. Yeah. So the sign behind
and they changed the sign.
Yeah. I saw it was painted red. I don't know what that stood for.
I think it's the Stargate Authority.
Okay. Yeah.
I think.
Sounds like a very government.
Which makes sense because it's a little more civilian controlled that way.
I like, because those are some things I thought were interesting. Like, so you had Catherine, who was, we saw in Tormented Tantalus, we saw in the movie, who was there running the show, civilian. We had Dr. Carter, not Captain Carter, civilian. And then we had the same Chevron guy going, and he looked like a civilian. He had a tie and everything. But at one point, Colonel Hammond says, "Hey, airman, we need to do this." And he responded. It's like, okay, for some reason, he's wearing a suit today. But I don't know. I think honestly, that moment, like that situation, hey, airman, wearing some suit that's still going to respond to everything, really describes this episode for me. Like, I'm going to tell you a thing, but I'm going to show you something totally different, and you just need to buy what I told you.
Yep, that's fair. That's incredibly fair.
So there you go. That's my first time reaction on this one, was pretty much that. Brent, did you get any sci-fi messages out of this one?
Well, I got one that actually I thought was really neat. And I think it's simply this. There's this conversation between Jack and Daniel, and Jack's about to send the bomb through to Chulak. And it really begs the question. I thought this was a very Star Trek type of question. I feel like we probably did see this on Next Generation a few times.
Yeah.
And probably throughout the rest, but it's a question of who is the real enemy. You have this very real thing. They're in the middle of this invasion, 1.5 billion people dead. The people who are doing the killing, the people who are flying the planes, the Jaffa, we've got their home planet address. Now, it doesn't matter to me at this moment, or at least to Jack, whether or not they're slaves, they're in control, they can do whatever. And Daniel does this pause to go, wait a minute, these guys can't control what they're doing. They're just slaves. And so I think it asked the question, and this was they presented the problem. They threw it out there. They kind of let you see both sides of it. We've seen one side of it through 19 episodes so far. And then we saw the other side of it through a few lines in this one. So we saw that, and it never answered the question to tell you which way was right. Which I really enjoyed it. I'm not going to sit here and tell you which one is right, because Daniel says they're only slaves. They're only slaves. Now, are the Jaffa slaves? Yeah, but I don't think it's in the same way that we have experienced slavery here on Earth in real life, in real history.
In their culture, it's kind of an honor to be a Jaffa. Like, you aspire to it, you train for it, and
but it may be more like a slave, like a mental slaver. Like, we've convinced you, and you just don't know the truth, or something like that. But the Jaffa are still willingly going into battle and willingly doing. And we saw Teal'c. Like, Teal'c had a moment where he might have joined. I think alternate Teal'c, top knot Teal'c. He might have joined, except he's like, yeah, but you just blew up my son, so now I'm blowing you up.
I did love that scene, by the way, because like Jack was like, your son, Ryak, thinking, I got you. I know the thing. And he's like, oh, you mean the kid you just blew up? Yeah, we're done.
Had he not blew up Ryak, had they not sent the bomb through to Chulak, would Top Knot Tilk have turned the way that Cool Guy Tilk had turned? Maybe. We don't know. That's in another alternate reality.
It's happening at the exact same time. Parallel yet different.
Exactly. The way those parallel universes, I'm not enough of a physicist to be able to talk intelligently about the multiverse. The idea that every choice spurns two new realities, if you either did it this way or you did it that way or whatever it is, and it just infinitely goes on like that forever, I don't know that that's it. Yeah, there might be different types of universes, different types of realities, but I don't know that it's based on decisions we make.
Hey, frankly, I don't think it matters. We're not crossing into those other realities.
Cool sci-fi concept. Like I said, we see it in all the ones. But yeah, this episode, it's a great question you asked there, Jeff, because I cannot recall anybody ever talking about, in all the fan conventions, people talking about episodes. Like, I think the only time I've heard them mention this episode is the fact that the actress who played Catherine appeared in this episode. Like, because I think she only appears in like three or four episodes. I was like, yeah, she was in that one and she was in this one and that one over there. Like, that's the only reference this episode really gets.
We get that, and then it's Kemper's first foray into Stargate. That's all the stuff.
So with that, Jeff, I guess it comes down to me to rate this one on chevrons. How strong was the message? How much was it in there? I'm going to give this one a 1 chevron. It threw it out there. It was not what the whole show was about. It was not some moral perpetude, but it was enough of a moment, maybe even 1.5. Like, it was enough of a moment where they stopped the episode and they had the question, and they dwelt on it for a minute, and then they moved on.
Told the rest of the story.
So I'm going to give it one. I'm going to say 1.5 chevrons. Jeff, the question for you is, where are you going to rank this episode in our completely accurate, 100% definitive, immutable show ranking of season 1 of SG1? Oh, I'm going to go from the bottom, Jeff, because I got a feeling you're probably going to throw it down there. Our bottom 5 currently are Fire and Water, The Enemy Within, The First Commandment, Hathor and Emancipation. Ooh, I don't know if this one goes all the way down there or not. Maybe it does. Jeff, you get to decide where you place in this one.
I'm not going to mince words on this one. I did not like this episode. I have a lot of problems with it. And I think what gets me the most in the whole thing is it could have been so cool.
Yeah.
Let's talk about civilian Carter. Let's talk about General Hammond. Let's get a little bit about General O'Neill, let's talk about those cool. Nope. We're just going to kill him. And then it's going to, I don't know, just set up for whatever. The thing is, did I hate it? Hate it. Wow. It's a strong, did I dislike it? More than I disliked Emancipation, Hathor, First Commandment. Man, those bottom 3 are rough episodes. This one I'm mad at because of plot stuff, but it's not rough. I'm going to make this one our new number 16, right above the First Commandment.
Right underneath The Enemy Within. Yeah, Fire and Water, Enemy Within, that's kind of the line where they weren't great episodes, but they didn't make you mad. You know what I mean? Like you're in that zone right now of that transition. So,
I mean, Fire and Water, it's the sushi one, right? Like it's not a bad episode. It's just
not great. First, I mean, honestly, The Enemy Within, that second episode with Kowalski, it's not that bad of an episode, but it's not good. I'm not going to go rewatch it. I'm happy to skip it if I'm doing a rewatch, but I'll watch it at the same time if it's on TV or whatever.
Okay, so now we know Goulds can hit people in the neck, and then Kowalski dies in a really cool way. Okay, next.
I will say this, though. Those bottom 3 that you just named, First Commandment, Hathor, and Emancipation, are probably the only 3 from this first season that if I were to see them, I would just press channel up or channel down.
Wow.
And I would not stop to watch those episodes. Those are probably the only 3 for me. A few of these I might keep channel surfing to see what else is there and then kind of come back to it. All right, Jeff. Well, that is going to put a bow.
It's going to put a bun in the oven.
Oh, God, I hope not.
Well, maybe because Jack and Sam were engaged, so maybe. Oh, no, they got blowed up. So
we did have that. Jack and Sam got engaged. And did you pick up the new canonized thing about gate travel technology?
That it can be held open.
For how long?
For about 30 minutes. 38 minutes if you're the Gould.
38 minutes. 38 minutes is the maximum time that a wormhole can be sustained between 2 Stargates. That's canon from here on out. That's the maximum time. So, all right, Jeff, that's going to do it for us for today on Stargate SG-1 for the first time. That's it for There But the Grace of God. Would you like to know what we're watching next week?
Yeah.
The name of that episode is called Politics. Now, I've told you that this episode really sets off this little arc to end the season. And Jeff, I don't even mind telling you, like, this episode to me that we watched today really just feels like it's what they're doing to establish a few things, and that's really the purpose it serves. Jeff, I usually ask if you would like to venture a guess, but with this title, honestly, I'm curious, if you think about it enough, and it's really probably not that hard, you might be able to figure it out, or at least get really close to it. So I'm not giving you a choice this week. You must venture a guess as to what this episode could be.
Backed up against a wall. Here I go. I got to figure out politics. Here's the thing. So Daniel says they're coming. They're here. This is going to happen. It's going to be him convincing General Hammond specifically, and then the politics around, hey guys, there's a planetary assault coming. Remember this program over here you're sinking a whole bunch of money into, and you're trying to get, you have your whole intelligence crew coming in? Yeah, we got some real stuff for you. So they're trying to get everything lined up for the big attack.
All right. Well, we'll see next week here on Stargate SG-1 for the first time. Thank you guys out there so much for joining us. Please don't forget to like the video, subscribe, share this show with someone that you know who needs to fall in love with Stargate for the first time, or maybe somebody who already loves Stargate and they just want to experience it again for the first time vicariously through my guy Jeff over there. Also, please make sure you leave us a rating and review as you're out there doing things. Places that can do that, like Audible or Apple Podcasts or any of those kind of places. So with that, guys, until next time, we are going to get out of here.
Hey, Brent.
Yes, Jeff.
Do things seem a little bit weird to you right now?
With you, things always seem a little bit weird.
That's true, but I don't know, man. Like, either I'm losing my mind, or maybe this isn't even my world. I don't know what's happening.
Oh, for crying out loud.